Hello friends, welcome to my video. I love you. So today I'm 2 days into an extremely amazing revelation that I believe could be or is the cure for my paranoia. Okay, I've been struggling with paranoid schizophrenia. That's what they called it because I was having some hypersensitivity to everyone's thoughts and all the sounds around me, and all of the input from the environment was communicating a story to me, and I had this heavily victimized story that I was telling myself, and you know, people were exploiting that. And because that's what happens when you call yourself a victim, right? When you call yourself a victim, you're informing the people around you that you're a victim and that you should be treated as a victim. So something just clicked in my brain day before yesterday, and it's something that I always knew rationally and logically, that people have been telling me, and that I knew because it's common sense. Don't be a victim, you know, is basically the message. Don't be a victim. Don't associate yourself as a person who's being attacked, you know, unless it's like overt physical violence or something, obviously, then, you know, that's different. But as far as like psychologically, you never want to play the victim. And so this has been a huge revelation for me. And these couple of days, I've been able to hear all of the noises and all of the input from the environment, and be able to say, you know what? That is the sound of life happening. Life happens. People got to live. People got to do what they got to do. And there's noise associated with that. There's, you know, people are just living life, and I don't need to take it personally, and I don't need to internalize the activities of strangers all the time. So this is helping me tremendously with the paranoid condition that I have, which is also attached to a special anomaly that I have in my brain. But today's video is about the shadow, and how, because of my paranoid condition all this time, I have felt very self-conscious about my shadow. And so I've tried to suppress my shadow, and I've tried very much to hide it, you know, and to soothe it, and like put it to sleep, you know, because I just like don't want to have a shadow, because then people aren't going to like me if they can see my shadow. And so I've gotten into this really I've gotten into this very active campaign to suppress and to oppress my shadow self, which my shadow self is basically something that I'm not even familiar with at this time, because I've been suppressing it for so long, and I'm sure that it's much more than what I can fathom at this moment. But I will say that I have inappropriate thoughts and negative thoughts, and that's how it manifests now, because I've been suppressing myself for so long, and oppressing myself, and trying to hide my shadow for so long. You know, I was wrestling with it. And when you're wrestling with something, you make it stronger, you know, because you're providing this resistance to it. And I have done everything to try to kill my shadow. I have done drugs. I have done a lot of meditation. That's kind of the reason that I do so much meditation. I do a lot of acupressure, and a lot of positive things that have helped with sort of. But, you know, the reason that I'm doing it is to kind of write off the shadow, right? So the shadow doesn't exist. I'm trying to still my mind to the point of death, you know, like quiet my mind to the point where it doesn't have any mind of its own, you know, where my mind just doesn't have any expression other than what I deliberately put in there, and what I deliberately want to express, which is a kind of a death. And it makes me feel like a Stepford wife in a way, you know, like, wow, my mind never has a thought. It never has a random thought, really. Like nothing ever arises in my mind that's unsavory or even that's brilliant or anything. Like my mind just has no life of its own. And so for today, I'm recognizing that I've been doing that today. And so, you know, I'm watching videos, which is what I do almost every day right now, but I'm enjoying it because it's going to change soon. So I'm trying to get it in while I can. So, you know, things that should make me happy, or that, you know, I shouldn't even have a reaction to, should and shouldn't, right? Because I'm just placing all of these judgments and all of these values on these random negative thoughts, you know, because I'm watching people and I like what they're saying, and I agree and stuff like that, but my mind is having negative, you know, stuff. And I even had a jealousy issue today, and this is really what brought my attention to it. All right, so I was watching this story about this Asian girl. She's an Asian American girl. When she was in high school, her family was murdered. Her whole family, 5 people, her mother, her father, and her sister and brother were murdered. And her aunt were murdered in their home, and she was out of town. She was on a school vacation because she was in high school, and she was describing how her family was before all that happened, and it was something that was so amazing that I will never experience. You know, that her family, you know, her and her siblings were very close. They had a lot in common. They would read the same books and talk about it. And her mom was very loving, and she was always home, and she was always cooking, and she was always, you know, and the dad was beautiful, and he was a very hard worker and everything. And so as I'm listening to all this, I'm just like, wow, you know, and I'm trying not to feel some type of way, but for some reason I just kept feeling like envious of this person. I was feeling envious of her, even though her whole family got murdered, you know. But it was weird. It was like, it was inappropriate, you know, just like put it like that. It was inappropriate, and you know, I don't usually have those kind of feelings about people, but for some reason, I think it's because these people are Asian. And I noticed that when Asian people come to America, a lot of times they have a better experience than the Americans who are here, and especially the Black Americans. So there's kind of this background noise in my mind. There's a lot going on too, because I also recognize that the system kind of, well, likes to build people up to tear them down and stuff like that. But at any rate, I was feeling some kind of envy or some kind of negativity and stuff as I'm listening to this young lady's story. And I really beat myself up for it, you know, because that's not what she needed. She needed my compassion, you know, because her family was murdered. Her whole family was murdered. And not only that, the murderer of her family was an uncle that she knew and that she trusted, who was her neighbor across the street. And after she came back home from her school trip, she tried to stay in her house, but obviously everybody was killed in the house. And even though it was clean, she couldn't stay in there because it was just too creepy. So she went across the street to her uncle's house, and her uncle took her in, but she didn't know that he was the killer, and he was molesting her even before he killed her family. So it was just like, I mean, it was just, you know, the story was just beyond incredible. But you know, the whole time I'm trying to fight back the envy that I feel, and like the bitterness and the hatred, kind of, almost, because you know, these Chinese immigrants are having this kind of life over here in America that I will never come close to, and I'm an American. And so I was hating myself for that, and I was just beating myself up, and I was like so apologetic to this girl, you know, I'm so sorry for thinking these things about you. I wish that I could just listen to your story and, you know, all of that. So so that really highlighted it for me, and so I realized that I've been holding my breath for years, feeling so exposed and so hypersensitive about hurting people's feelings, and just desperate not to hurt people's feelings. And I think I'm doing more harm that way than anything. You know, as I'm watching this girl, because she can hear me watching her, she can see me watching her, because I'm the anomaly. And so I can see that, you know, she probably was damaged more by me not allowing that trauma-based response to just flow. And I should have just let it flow and just watched it and listened to it, instead of judging, criticizing it, and trying to block it and suppress it. So that was a really big revelation for me today. I hope that from now on, I don't have to hold my breath, and that I don't have to be ultra sensitive to the sounds and to the signals around me, even if people are uncomfortable, or even if people don't like me or anything like that. That it simply won't matter as much as it has, you know, to the point where I've cared so much about what people thought and about how I'm affecting people that I really have literally been holding my breath for like 20 years, just trying not to offend. And I think that was my biggest fear in the first place. You know, in my adult life was just always like, I'm afraid to hurt people's feelings, and I'm afraid to hurt people because I felt really powerful and I didn't want to hurt anybody. So so basically, all that breath holding and all that, you know, walking on eggshells and tiptoeing is actually a trauma that we do to ourselves. So we're just traumatizing ourselves, and we're making the inappropriate responses even stronger. So I just wanted to share that today, and wish me luck.